Well, good afternoon. So this might be the 121st of the year of this year, 121 years at JJC.
Hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I just thought of that, but
Yeah.
anyway. So Kelly, go ahead and we'll have a roll call.
Okay, trustee Broderick. Trustee Budzinski.
Here.
Trustee Garcia Guillen. Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee Morales.
Here.
Trustee Stamborski.
Here.
Trustee O'Connell.
Here. Welcome. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance and Trustee Lee, I guess you have to do it this time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right. We have any public comments this evening?
We do not have any public comments, Mr.
If I
Chairman.
can interrupt you, Mr. Chair. We need
Sure.
to appoint a secretary pro tem because trustee Garcia Guillen isn't.
All
here
right,
today,
yeah,
so
I thought I already did that, but I didn't do that.
That's okay.
We were appointing Jim as Secretary Pro Tem.
Need a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Kelly? Okay, we got that. And we're at a moment of silence.
Chairman O'Connell, thank you. Tonight, I'm asking the college community to join us in a moment of silence for the following names. First on our list is Janet Francoeur, mother of Michelle Francoeur in Health and Public Services. Next is Tina Marie Steelman, mother of Tabitha Green in our workforce development area. Robert Tierney, grandfather of Nick Shane, Facility Services, and father-in-law of Joan Tierney, the President's Office retiree. Kyla Noel Dean, granddaughter of Cabinet member Dr. Escortina Irvin. Virginia Hayes, JJC student. Katrina O'Hare, JJC student. Professor Thomas Meixner, who tragically lost his life in Tucson at the University of Arizona. And lastly, the victims of Hurricane Ian, all affected. So college community, if you would please join me in a moment of silence.
And can I add one thing?
Please.
That one of our deans, Danielle Lipinski, is one of those that was involved in it, whose home's being demolished, that was in the hurricane.
All right. Thank you. We're to 1.2, selected reports. 1.2.1, Board of Trustees approval of Native American Heritage Month. Proclamation.
Chairman O'Connell, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to the podium Aisha Ellis. And let me attempt to embarrass Aisha a little bit. Aisha's major is business administration. At JJC, she's involved in the Black Student Union, the Social Justice Club, the National Society of Leadership and Success. She's also a peer mentor and works with the Office of Student Activities, and you'll see her all around campus in that role. In the future, she wants to own her own business. After graduating from JJC, she intends to transfer to a four-year university, preferably an HBCU. After college, she intends to make the most out of her degrees and wants to improve her community by providing jobs and opportunities to others through businesses that she is most passionate about. Please join me in welcoming Aisha Ellis.
Native American Heritage Month. Whereas people of Native American ancestry have played a major part in the history of the United States, and whereas it is the goal of Joliet Junior College to provide its students with a comprehensive curricular and co-curricular educational experience with consideration to the contributions of all socially identifiable groups within American history and culture. And whereas people of Native American ancestry have played and continue to play a vital role in the economic, cultural, social, political, and geographic development of the United States. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Illinois Community College, District Number 525, Joliet Junior College, counties of Will, Grundy, Kendall, LaSalle, Kankakee, Livingston, and Cook, State of Illinois, hereby recognizes and designates the month of November as Native American Heritage Month in Illinois Community College District Number 525, adopted this 12th day of November 2022.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 1.2.2, student results, student survey results. Mr. Stromborski. What should your name?
Stamborski.
I gave you an extra vowel. Sorry.
All right. So hello. For those of you, oh shoot, I actually forgot the, thank you very much. So hello. For those of you who may not know me already, my name is Joshua Stamborski. I am the current serving student trustee for Joliet Junior College. Before beginning in earnest, a little context is required. For those of you who were present back during the April 2022 Board of Trustees meeting, the former student trustee, David Lozano, conducted a general survey of the student body. Among the issues that were identified, mental health ranked atop among the challenges facing the student body. And that became my priority for the next several months, culminating in a student survey that was ran in September. It is only now that I believe that the results are developed enough to be worthy of presentation to the board. While all the data is interesting, my time is limited, so I'll focus on trends identified in the gathered dataset that speak most to the student experience. Keep in mind, looking at the numbers, the total individuals polled was 412, and the questions with bar graphs are check all that apply, while pie graphs are multiple choice. So if you look at the bar graphs, about the 200 mark on a lot of the bar graphs is 50% of students, so just keep it as a mental reference. Just give you a minute to take it in for a second. So do you struggle with any of the mental health issues? Check all that apply. Anxiety, in blue, leads the data set with just under 3/4 of all respondents reported struggling with anxiety. This was followed by sleeping difficulty in red, concentration issues in brown, and depressive symptoms in green. Each of these graphs hover right around the 200 reporting mark, which indicates half of respondents. Mental health issues are so pervasive, it's down to a coin toss if someone struggles with just one of these issues. This graph has a lot of good information in it, but noteworthy numbers are, in blue, lack of transportation being, in addition to mental health, how have you been impacted by the following? So lack of transportation, lack of supportive relationships, and the food insecurity issue that's currently ongoing on campus due to inflation and cost of living issues. Of these issues listed over both slides, so the last one and the former one, over 2/3 of respondents reported struggling or feeling overwhelmed trying to cope with the issues in either blue or irregularly in yellow. If you kind of add those up mentally, it's 2/3 of respondents at some point in the recent past have struggled with this. In which of these areas do the above issues impact you? Check all the following. So social engagements is a pretty big one. Where when you're kind of on the depressed side, it's very difficult to engage with social activities. Also, physical health is neglected when people are having crisis or are having difficulty operating. And emotional wellness is the first thing that typically goes when somebody is experiencing issues. Now, I'd like to point out there that academics is actually kind of low there. My friends at the mental health services kind of pointed out that there's actually a causal relationship going on here. The academics in Brown are the things students tend to prioritize first. So if you think about it like trimming the fat, so to speak, students will first let their emotional wellness go before letting their physical health go, social engagements, and then academics. Typically what ends up occurring. Have you sought help in the past for these mental health concerns? As you can see, using the pie graph, half of students almost found it to be of some benefit when they were able to go to a counselor or someone to speak to. And a good chunk of them didn't think that they needed the help. What barriers keep you from seeking help for mental health concerns past, present, and future? The big one is, well, I'll go up a little bit. So not knowing where to go in blue is a huge roadblock for people when they are seeking addressal for their mental health concerns. On top of that, you have financial issues, insurance issues, and if you see the plurality of the data suggests that no time or being overwhelmed is what stops people from addressing their mental health concerns. It's kind of cyclical. If you're having mental health problems, it's harder to seek help. It becomes more and more difficult. How familiar are you with the mental health services available at Joliet Junior College? 1 would be not familiar at all, or 5 being familiar enough that you can make an appointment. And the number was 2.62, which is about in line with services at Joliet Junior College, but of course we can always improve. Of the responses, so finally, the poll asks what other forms of mental health support should we do on campus? This was a free response question, so I picked a few of the responses that were really, really detailed. So I'll read those off to you. Quote, helping students with burnout from academics and how to relieve and prevent excessive stress. Another quote, just people checking in on me. Another quote, social events that help loners. And another quote, therapy puppies, which are ever popular. All right. I'm no psychologist. I'm also not a data analyst. I am an undergraduate student. So obviously, a lot of these bar graphs are, take it with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt. We're really here to benefit the community. That's the whole point of Joliet Junior College. That's why it exists, is we ask how do we, create better environments for people? And the way that we do that is through education. But Joliet Junior College is also a pillar of the community. It stands for other services and other ways of improving people's lives. That's really why we're all here sitting in this room today, is we want to improve the lives of those around us. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of a quote. It's very old and it's a little contrived to end a speech with a quote, but it popped to mind. So it's an old Greek proverb, is a good society is one in which old men plant trees under which they will never know the shade of. And with that, I would like to thank Mike Lyacone and Jessica Contras for the invaluable assistance they provided me throughout the course of the project. They continue to go above and beyond to make the lives of those at JJC a little brighter and to make the next day a little bit easier. They made this project possible. I'd also like to thank Andrew Martinez for helping me compile my thoughts into this script and putting up with me talking about this project ad nauseum, as well as for the input and assistance provided by individuals throughout the process. Every talk, every meeting that we had made more of a difference than you can imagine. You all really have my thanks. And with that, I conclude my report. Yeah.
Can we ask any questions?
Oh, yeah, that would be something to ask, right? Any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I'm going to say as a trustee,
All right.
I have a big concern because the mental health, whether it be in higher ed or in K through 12, it's there. Do we have enough support in your department to help the students, to make them know where the area is to go? Because the biggest thing is getting the help. You recognize you need it, but how do you get that help? And do we have enough funding in his department? Is there things that we need to look at? Because I've talked to him when we were at the wellness, and I thought it was excellent the way you were showing where the survey was taken. It was great that the students were participating, but it's now also, we're here for the students, both for their education and for them mentally too, because they can't get their education if they're not put together. And this past 2 years with the COVID has been a stress on everyone, ages throughout. And I don't want to see our students suffering if they can't get the right help, if we don't have the resources that they need, Mike. So I'm going to throw that back at you and Dr. Namuo.
Any other questions?
I do. I noticed one of the issues that came up under financial, you mentioned insurance. You're referring to major medical insurance so that students can go and see seek mental health services and have it covered through their major medical insurance? Or what kind of insurance are you referring to?
Mike, good.
Yeah, that would be medical insurance. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So depending on the medical, so majority medical insurance, whether it's state funded or private funded or employee, often has a behavioral health component. But something to keep in mind with some of our students is that, especially being in that limbo of still being on parents' insurance, and not aging out until 26, and that parental support. But then there's the other factor of many of our students are underinsured or not insured at all. So having our services that are free is a big benefit in that aspect.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's important because major medical coverage, as a small business owner, it's difficult sometimes for us even to, if we have 3 or 4 or 5 employees, to give them benefits. It's tough. So I'm really supportive that we continue to offer the services here on campus, and they're free. I think in comparison to what other schools like high schools and elementary schools, I think JJC is ahead of the game. We're having the challenging conversations about what the needs are. And I think as long as at every single department, especially the frontline departments, including faculty, if we can continue to check in on our students and say, hey, are you doing okay? You know, and making sure we're open to having a confidential, private conversation with students to make sure they're doing well, because then that will only help increase their sustainability in school and their graduation rates will increase. Thank you. Thank you for the report. It was very well put together, Josh. Congratulations.
Thank you, Trustee Morales. I appreciate
So
it.
back to my question.
Yep. I'll take that one, Trustee Broderick. I'll take that one. So stealing a bit of my thunder from the president's report. I've got, and they know this.
Sorry, I'm
it's
asking
okay.
since it was given. I'm
No
concerned
problem,
about
no
mental health.
problem. You know, I want to acknowledge, Trustee Stamborski. I want to acknowledge those who came in support of this. I mean, this communicates to us as an administration, to the board as a whole, how important this is. And so I've got a couple of slides coming up in the president's report in 5.1 that will highlight some of the things we've been doing thus far and some of the fine people in this room. Additionally, ahead of the budget development cycle, some things that will be considered connected to this presentation. So thank you.
Do they also get grants? Do you also have grants that are written for this program at all? I don't know if Christie's group has, Yvette, does she help with the grants too? So you do get grants?
We haven't received any grants. We write for grants, and we're in that process. But there's actually another one we're writing for now, but we've yet to be awarded one.
Okay.
I just have a couple of thoughts. Number one, on the barriers keeping you from seeking mental health, the number one thing is lack of parent or family support. And then one of the quotes you read was just somebody checking in on me. So I think that if we're going to grow any program right now, it might be some sort of program and to hire some sort of staff to be checking in on our students. I think that might be important if that is the biggest thing that is one of the barriers from keeping them from seeking mental health. I would just think that we could try to be that support system if their family isn't able to be there for them in some way, shape, or form. In which of these areas do the above issues impact you? Emotional wellness was the highest. And I just want to make a comment about that. And in case nobody knows, I'll take up a few moments of your time. There has been studies done on the blood, looking at the blood under a microscope and what causes the most trauma to the actual blood cells. And they've looked at car accidents and comas and liver transplants and heart transplants. And besides chemotherapy, the most damage that they see done to the actual blood cell is when you are going through an emotional situation. So with the physical and the social engagement that may seem lower, it's still affecting their physical health, that emotional wellness. So I know we have a lot in the works. I know we have put in money for new positions, and so I think that we are working towards this, and would like to talk more about this in our retreat coming up, if that's possible.
And just as a tip off from what you said, I know that when you are Al-Anon and you're an AA, you have your sponsor. Is there any type of student relationship that could be like a sponsorship so that you can check in on?
I think what they're saying is that they're already spread thin on time. I think that that should fall under our responsibility to kind of.
Well, I'm waiting to hear what Mike's going to say, though.
Thanks for letting me speak. To that regard, that's one of the things that's in our plan moving forward. And I know the president's going to touch on some of that stuff. But one of the things in our future is to build and develop a peer-to-peer student support program. That's including training students to be active listeners, training them in mental health first aid. There's another program called Question, Persuade, and Refer, where you're asking difficult questions such as, are you having thoughts of suicide? And if you are, this is what we can do about it to get you there. So when, Josh presented the slide with lack of supportive relationships, that's the first thing that jumps out to me is one of those things we can build here to allow students to help students. Not a lot of times students want to come in and go through the trauma of asking for help to somebody like me or any of the other wellness advocates, but another student, they might be more comfortable.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Care report is another thing. We rolled out the care report in the spring of this year. Since then, we've had probably over 50 care reports as opposed to 4-bit reports. And approximately half of those people, the students who were reported to have undergone some type of emotional trauma or housing or food insecurity, about half of those are engaging in our services directly, where otherwise they might not have been able to come in. We're going to them as soon as we're able to identify them.
And then do you notice when you're seeing that, do you interact with the foundation if there's any need of financial needs support?
Yeah, we've had some interaction, and that's definitely a conversation we had earlier, was trying to bridge the gap between student emergency fund and maybe case management. And I'm not going to try to steal our thunder, but I was going to ask Christy about that, just to, if somebody's requesting student emergency funds, more than likely they're undergoing some type of stress other than just the financial. So if we can bridge that gap and then refer those students directly to case management or even counseling, we can hopefully catch some of those things before they become problematic and they're impacting their academics or their home life or anything like that.
Are you also working with any counselors in any of the hospitals or local medical centers?
Well, we have several relationships with outside counselors that we can refer to. And it kind of leads into what Trustee Morales was speaking of where it comes to insurance. So some of the cases that we see are not appropriate for a junior college setting or community college setting where they need outside specialists and things like that. We can then refer them out to some of those services. ThriveWorks is a very big program in Joliet now, where any resident of Joliet can receive free mental health services. And that's being supplemented through tax dollars through the city of Joliet. Another reason for the insurance would be medication management. We don't have a piece in our program to deal with medication management, where other schools kind of have some who are contracted to come in. But that's, again, something we're planning on in the future once that funding is in place, whether it's through the institution or through state funding to kind of support some of the mandates that we're trying to meet. But until then, that's one of the weaknesses that we're having.
Thanks.
Have we thought about reaching out to churches? I know there is a church called Restoration, and they specifically have a group for, I forget the name of it, but it's for mental health. It's like kind of like hurts, habits, and hangups or something like that. And so it's not specifically for addiction, which a lot of churches have, but it's actually for mental health. And I've seen a lot of people go through their program. It's a court, they take court ordered, people who are court ordered to go through certain programs, and they can choose that or, different programs. And I've seen a lot of people succeed off of that program. Would that be something that, I know we're a college, but reaching out to a church who may do things for free, is that something that we would be open to talking about possibly?
Well, as far as that goes, I mean, we are definitely open as clinicians to provide group therapy, and we can make homogenized groups depending on what the students' needs are. Historically, at least in the past few years, we've been stifled with the pandemic, so we haven't had that large group turnout. But that's, again, one of the things we want to outreach more on, is to identify those groups of individuals who need that help, who share those common concerns. Now, when it comes to case management, we're not opposed to referring students to wherever their needs are going to be met, whether it's a religious institution or NAMI, who has several support groups to deal with mental health. We've worked in the past with Lightways, which is formerly Joliet Hospice, to do grief work. And we actually brought them on campus last fall after the tragic Halloween event. So that relationship is in place. The issue that we're finding is smaller places like this often aren't on our radar. So the more resources we become aware of, we can then refer students to it. I recently worked on a 44-page document to help faculty and staff, and I listed a whole bunch of pages of resources. And then I got my hands on a Joliet Fire Department resource book that was 88 pages. And there's another one that I saw was 100 pages. So there's tons of resources, but it's almost kind of like clogging the works, if you will, because there's just so many, we can't keep track of them all. Yes. So one of the ways that we do that is we bring them in. We try to reach out to some of these agencies, and we're actually having an event the 26th of this month. We call it Coffee and Conversation, where we invite all of our community partners to come out and share different ideas of programs that they have, to share their resources with us. We're going to piggyback that with a wellness fair with a lot of those same individuals and groups, who will then come in the spring, and we will open that up to not just students, but faculty and staff, because we're all going through the same stuff. So once those resources are brought together, we can then distribute that information to the students, faculty, staff, and everybody who needs it. It's just keeping track of all those resources. It's difficult.
Will you be doing something like Al-Anon does? Because Al-Anon has it where they have all the meetings that you could go to because there's one common reason you meet.
Yes.
You're either engaged with someone that has an alcoholic problem. But with this, you have mental health issues. And Al-Anon has it where you can go to any meeting, you could step in, they don't want to know your name, they just want you to feel free to talk. Because talking is the best way of releasing any of the stress from the anxieties that you're having. And anxiety is number one. So would you be trying to put something together like this, where the kids would know where they could go to different meetings in the area?
We definitely could. And that's something that we need to work better on, is to, maybe provide those resources to the students. But as Joshua mentioned, when I was working with him, a lot of these things would be resolved if students just check their email. And that's an age-old problem, right? This isn't for lack of trying. I mean, we're outreaching and we're getting in there. It's just we get stuck in these mailboxes all the time. And
How about a YouTube ad?
well, I'd love to partner with Wolfpack Productions. I'd like to, have a YouTube channel. We did have a podcast that we need to get back going.
Say, one of the things, and that's something, we don't just do email. I mean, we try to target students through a number of different avenues. So for example, during the pandemic, knowing that students were off campus, we launched our Wolf Wellness newsletter. That's been going very well. It goes out every month. It's on kind of an informal way to get information about emotional wellness. During that time, we did like a video podcast, and we created like a stream channel and used another avenue. And we brought students on when they were open. We brought providers on from in the community so they could see different faces and reduce that stigma of talking about mental health. We've gone into classrooms, whichever instructor will have us in, we'll go in and talk about our services. If it's not about our services, I mean, we've had some creative instructors. I had an instructor that did a late night kind of talk show host, and we talked about mental health, and she had different resources, and it was a natural science class. So it was even way different from the actual topic. So as Mike mentioned, it's not just the email we're targeting. We're out there. OSA is a great collaborator. CMOS is a great collaborator later. So when you mention like the groups and things like that, that's kind of some of our struggles, is that with the team we have now, not only do we have higher numbers this year and students, it's good work. Students are coming in and asking for that support. But on top of the direct services we're providing, we're also doing workshops. We're collaborating with other departments so that they tell us what workshops their students want, and we go in and provide that so they see our face. We're very involved when it comes like Welcome Week and Stress Relief Week, and OSA keeps us on tabs of things coming up. For example, when last year too, when we were doing the AAA like book clubs and things like that, we were just present in case students needed that safe space. When we had active mind speakers, we were just present so that students were aware, presenting mental health from different avenues, but we were present so they'd saw our faces and they felt comfortable coming to us. We recently went out to some of the athletics, and even then some students will come out and say, just because I saw you in my classroom or because you came out and talked to us, I think I'm ready to kind of use the supports. Yes. So, I think if you might have the opportunity to share much more, we can definitely paint a large picture of all the work. And not just me and Mike. I have to give kudos to Kelly, who is our admin. She's quick on returning those calls to students. Even right now we're working with a student after hours just to make sure that they knew that we would reach out with them first thing in the morning, get them in with an appointment. We have Heidi, who has been both on Romeoville campus here. She hops on and ran a lot of groups with us before the pandemic and things like that. We have Ozzer, who is permanently at Romeoville. So we've been going more with City Center and working to find, now that we've kind of set our foundation, we're ready to grow. But I think we've grown very fast. And I think we're ready to just bring that support that's needed here on campus.
That's good. That's good. Great job, Josh, in putting this together, and Mike for, making sure that the students were coming there. That was good. To all of you that are involved.
If I can mention one more thing, please. So yesterday we had presenters come out to the Joliet Township Board meeting. It's a group, it's called Golden Stars, Casa de la Cultura. And it's open to everyone. It's free, and the people that are offering the services are volunteers. And basically, they've seen all of these trends that you spoke of. They spoke of that as well, and their goal is also to provide, to help students to cope with these issues. But they broke them down in groups because right now I think they're serving about 60 students, ages from 7 to 11. 12 to 17, and then adults. So they break them in different groups, and they work on different things like music, art, piano, guitar, dance. There's a lot of different activities that they engage them with, and then they're also working with parents on how to be better listeners and give your children better support. So if any student needs that, they definitely can join, and it's free, so there's no cost. So insurance is not an issue. And if there's any students that want to volunteer to help, and if they need, community service hours, they're also looking for volunteers to help with this as well. And they also need a space. So maybe right now, one of the churches lent them a room, maybe about this size or a little bit smaller, and they're doing everything out of there. So I know they're looking for space. So I don't know if maybe that's something we can talk later on with Dr. Farmer. Maybe we have some space at the downtown center, Romeoville, where these services can be given, because it's a 501c3. So it's I'll email, I think maybe Mike, the information.
Well, Yeah, or our mental health email goes directly there, and then Kelly does a great job of passing it to where it needs to go. And I even want to comment on that. I mean, the other aspect we do is we've done a lot of stuff in the community as well. When the tragedy happened on Halloween, I gotta give Mike props. He moved quickly and tried to find an avenue to create avenues for our community members, because we knew it's not just our students, but it's the families as well. I can testify and say I've done a lot of advocacy and work with our bilingual students, and working on creating our forms to be bilingual, to create that equitable piece of having students feel comfortable seeking out their support. It was mentioned earlier too about parental support and so forth. At Discover JJC, I even kind of volunteered a little bit, but asked, can I talk to the parents and at least start that conversation of what does college look like, and how can you be a good parent and support indirectly, knowing that that would be support for mental health, right? So I think we're doing, once again, I think the whole team is doing a lot of great work. We have a lot of great ideas. We have innovative ideas, but we have to, just kind of come together and see what that future looks like for us.
Right. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Last thing, I'd like to thank all the students for coming out here tonight, and I hope the board forgives them, but this week is finals week. So a lot of them took the time out of their day to come here, and some of them have finals tomorrow. Midterms. So I hope you forgive them if some of them have.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you guys. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Josh. 1.2.1.2.3. Tax levy for the year 2022.
Chairman O'Connell, thank you so much. Just again, want to acknowledge the good work of Trustee Stamborski and, the student health and mental health and wellness team under Cindy Vasquez Barrios, under Dr. Farmer's leadership, and more to come. Again, I've got a couple of slides in my report that'll provide a little bit more detail. So just kudos to the team there. There is no easy way to transition from student mental health to tax levies, so I'm not even going to try. I'll just jump right into it and invite, and as our esteemed controller, Jeff Heap, makes his way up there, I just want to tee this up a little bit for the board. I want you to just pay close attention to slide 10 here. Jeff's got him labeled there. Ultimately, you're looking at some board action today. 3.5 is going to provide some preliminary approval for some estimates that Jeff will show you, and then final approval will come in November, and there'll be a truth in taxation process as well. I just want to add that we take our recommendations very seriously. Our responsibility as a taxing body, a taxing authority, our fiduciary responsibility very seriously. And as a reminder, the assumptions that you'll see were built into this year's budget, and we're starting to see numbers trickle in, estimates at this point, at which point, over the next couple of months or so, we'll start to see final numbers, and certainly appreciate the board's support in what we're recommending today, and ultimately the taxpayers of the 7 counties that span our district. So with that, Jeff Heap, the floor is yours.
You said it in a nutshell.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Good evening. This is the formula the college has to follow under the tax cap law, and basically determines what our tax rate will be, along with what our maximum extension would be if there was no new construction in our district during the year. As Dr. Namuo referenced, when we built the FY23 budget, these were the tax revenue assumptions used in that budget, or in the current year's budget. An overall 6.2% increase for our operating funds, and that's comprised of 1.2% from new construction, which is equivalent to 275 million, and then 5% under consumer price index. Under the tax cap law, it's, depends on how you want to say it, it's the lower of CPI or 5%. So in essence, it cannot exceed 5%. Since the tax cap went into effect back in the early 90s, 99% confident it's the first time it's ever been at 5% for the increase. And then our debt service, and that's part of the real referendum bond, is just a little under 1.8% increase. So as we get 3/4 of the way through this current year and we start getting preliminary numbers out of a couple of our counties, and primarily Will County drives us, we start getting to our assumptions start to come into play of where we believe stuff will be. Overall, in our district, we expect existing property value to increase about 5%. And then new construction is in the $375 to possibly $400 million range. So it's coming in, about $100 million over what the budget was based on for new construction. And then CPI is known. Under the tax cap scenario, if we reduce the levy not to capture it, even though the budget was based on it, it would reduce our extension by a little over $3 million. Since the prior levy is the starting point under the tax cap formula, basically the college would lose that $3 million plus any future CPI adjustments going forward. It would compound. That after 20 years, it's almost $89 million cumulative. For debt service, the 2013A, 2018, and 2021 alternate revenue bonds will be abated because the capital assessment fee covers the principal and interest payments on those. What we're left with is the referendum bond that we refunded back in 2019 for interest savings. So the extension for 21 was just under 7.5 million. The extension in the bond resolution will be a little over 7.6 million next year. And basically the way that was laid out, it goes up around that 2% annually. So what I have up here is basically scenarios of modeling what the tax levy would be. And the only variable in here is new construction. And the one that's slightly highlighted is 375 million. That's kind of best guess of where we're going to come in, somewhere between there and possibly the 400 million. So kind of excluding tax levy, the operating extension would be approximately 63.9 million to 64 million. As a reference point, our budget was built on an operating levy of 63.6 million. The expectation is that it could come in slightly over budget. From an individual taxpayer's perspective, we started this kind of table back in 2010, had to drop a few years off or you wouldn't be able to read it anymore. We started with the $200,000 value house, and we adjusted that assessed value based on what the overall assessed value in our district did. So there, for quite a few years in the beginning, our assessed value was actually decreasing because of coming off the recession. And then in 2015, we started seeing increases, and it's been increasing since then. That kind of that average home last year, or for the 21 levy paid this year, would have paid the college around $189, estimated to pay about $198 next year. That $9, it's the consumer price index adjustment and the tax levy. Because I don't expect our tax rate, the tax rate should be pretty flat, just because the existing EAV is expected to go up a similar percentage is what's allowed under the consumer price index adjustment.
Based on appraised value? Wouldn't it be based on value that increased?
Yep.
When you're looking at the two?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The value, not our numbers doing the increase, it's the
Yep.
value of the home.
Yes, value of the home.
Which we have no control over.
Right.
That it's the owners, the taxpayers, that they,
Correct.
we don't have the control over that.
But within our district, the overall extension, our district's so large, stuff kind of gets averaged out, that our existing EAV should increase about the same as what the consumer price index adjustment will be, that I don't think our rate will change.
Mm-mm.
Existing property could be less than that or more than that, yes, it will change those numbers accordingly.
Well, since we've seen such extreme contracts increase in the last 2 years because of the shortage of homes, people have been buying 20, 30,000 over value of what the home was. So looking at that and taking that into consideration, I would think that is something that plays into this.
The only thing with the assessed value, the county assessors pretty much use kind of a 3-year averaging, that some of that gets leveled out in there, that it takes a while for some of that to show up in our assessed value at the district level.
Well, I know some are going through a quadrennial this year, and the quadrennial will then change because if they decide that there needs to be some changes, because I know they've had a lot of people coming in to refute their increased values. So that the quadrennial that is playing, because I know in New Lenox, we had it. I know Frankfurt's having it this year. So I'm just saying those are in our zone. So I'm concerned about the quadrennial effects too.
So the proposed levy and what's on the agenda later tonight, it's based on our budget plus 1%. In essence, the extension, new property would have to exceed $500 million not to capture it in here. Basically, the next steps touched on earlier, the tentative levy tonight will have to publish a truth and taxation notice between 7 and 14 days prior to asking for final adoption of the levy at the November meeting, and then file with the county clerks by the last Tuesday in December.
Isn't the CPI coming out tomorrow, from what I'm understanding, from our end of it? They're all concerned about rates going up tomorrow or the end of this week.
Rates or CPI?
Well, the CPI, which
That
is
comes
going
out
to,
monthly, yeah.
right, which is going to affect us too, because triple which the numbers are supposed to be coming out, they said this week, because we're expecting our rates to go up for mortgages again, and we're expecting to see CPI go too. Will we then have anything to change or alter? We'll keep status.
The tax cap law, the way the state law is written, it's based on the consumer price index for calendar year 21 for the 22 levy. So
Okay.
the 22 calendar year CPI would be for the 23 tax levy.
Got it. With the question that's coming up that I keep hearing about, you said 1990 was when the tax cap was put into place. They're looking to change Amendment 1 in the November election, which I'm hearing would change. And I don't know if would it allow the tax cap to be removed and go higher on our taxes? Are we
I'm not familiar with that.
Is anybody familiar with that?
You're saying that they're gonna repeal PTEL?
Well, from what I understand, in the discussions that's been going around, if they change Amendment 1 and it gets approved, our tax caps would be gone.
No, I think that, that's not, if you're talking about the amendment where it's workers' rights,
It's worker rights, but
that
it also
provision
has the
isn't
tax
attached.
in it.
That provision that you're talking about isn't attached to the workers' right amendment. It was attached to the prior amendment in the last general election. But it's my understanding that that is not part of the workers' rights amendment.
Because can somebody check into it? Because
We'll find out, Trustee
yeah,
Barrett.
because
We'll
I
find out
keep
for
hearing
sure.
that it's going to affect that.
Yep.
If that happens, then we lose our 5% tax cap on our real estate property. Does that do anything to us here that we could tax it whatever we want then? I'm asking these questions because as a taxpayer and as a trustee, I think we need to know.
Until they repeal PTEL, there's not, and that's gonna not, even if they did it in, obviously we're in 22, even if they did it in 23, it wouldn't be effective until 24. So we're gonna have at least a 24-month cycle before we'd even have to deal with that. But that would be a dramatic change in how they fund education in the state of Illinois, which when they proposed the last constitutional amendment, which talked about lots of things, including increases in pensions and so forth, that's not what this amendment is. So that part of the amendment was dropped. And remember, it wasn't part of the amendment. It was the administration statement that if the amendment was passed, then they were going to repeal PTEL. So it wasn't actually part of the amendment that was voted on.
Okay, well, whenever we're dealing with taxes, that's like the biggest thing in Illinois. We're all concerned about our real estate taxes because we all know when June 1st and September 1st, when we have to write that check or it's taken out of our escrow account, or we freak out, or they give us an escrow analysis in November that tells us, oh, you've got more that you need to put in your escrow account. I'm asking because as a taxpayer and as a representative of the taxpayers, we need to know those questions, ask those questions and know the answers to them.
But Trustee Broder, we'll bring that back.
Okay,
For
thank
sure.
you.
So Jeff, sorry, in summary, if we are asked, if we are raising people's property taxes, the answer would be,
Ultimately, yes, we're asking for more money.
Oh.
And that's how the budget was based on, that was adopted.
okay.
Jeff, can you differentiate though?
Yeah.
You talk about the percentages and how the percentages may or may not change in terms of the rates themselves.
Is it? Yeah, because the rates it's a formula and it's all behind the scenes based on what the overall assessed value of the district does compared to what it is allowed to be our full levy under the tax cap. I mean, if existing assessed value goes up basically 5% along with what we're allowed to increase our levy by 5%, our tax rate should basically be unchanged. If anything, it could even go down a hair because our debt service levy is not going up 5%. But then it gets into what is that person's assessed value? How did it change compared to the prior year? If their assessed value didn't change, technically they probably would pay the same tax bill to a lot of the taxing bodies. If their assessed value goes up, they're going to pay more.
But it's not us that's increasing it,
Right.
because Alicia, I looked at my tax bill for the last 10 years. It's only increased $22 for the last 10 years.
For the JJC portion.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for the JJC portion. That's what I'm concerned about.
Correct,
since
because we have a much broader district, so it's a smaller take what we take. It's because we have such a
we have
broad
big
district. Right,
population.
correct.
And I agree, but I'm just saying, if you're looking at the chart that he has on page 8, it shows we went from 102 in 2014 and we're down to 95 cents per thousand. Everything's then calculated off of the assessed market value of the home. So we have no control over their
Right,
market.
market values are high right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it is. But I can't say, honestly, I can't say that we're increasing. I think we're trying to stay status quo, because if we look at 2021, we were at 95. In 2022, we're going to be at 95. It's value that's going up. It's nothing that we control. There's variables out there, which is the control.
Yeah, let me say it very simply from a layperson's perspective. As the EAV goes up, the rate goes down because you're allowed to levy for your money. So when you see those numbers up there, and in 2014 it was $1.02 and now it's 95 cents, even though we may be getting more money now than we got in 2014 because we're allowed to increase it to keep up with CPI,
Right.
we're actually taxing less at a lower rate. So we're getting more money, but we're actually taxing less because the EAV goes up. So it's a formula designed to compensate for the increase in value without allowing us to tax at 1.02 when the value's up and collect more of a percent. So that's how that keeps it fair. So when Jeff says, yes, we're asking for more money, we are because of CPI and because of our cost increases, but we're not necessarily taxing the resident any more money, and we're
Thank
taxing
you.
them less
That's
than we
what I
did.
wanted to
Yeah,
hear.
it's so backwards, it's not even
Okay,
funny. So
thank you.
I get it. It's a horrible system. It works, it's just designed horribly.
Okay,
And from what we're looking at, the actual tax paid, if their property did increase, it isn't from 2021 to 2022, it's like $9.
right.
Right. So if the increase that it is going to be isn't astronomical, hopefully.
Got it. Well, our portion, JJC portion, there's about, I think, 16 different taxing bodies on our property taxes. And so we are like one of, I think, 15 or 16 maybe. So all the other ones, and when you combine, 9 here, 50 there. Yeah, I just paid my escrow. Believe me, I was short by like $1,400. I'm like, what? But I paid it, so I get it. But I have to explain this. So our portion, and I can only speak for JJC because I'm not on any other school district or any other taxing bodies. I can only speak for us, and that's all I can say. So thank you, Carl, for breaking it down. Jeff, don't scare people, please.
That's why I came back, because I didn't think it was, and that's why, I mean,
Well, he said it really scary. I'm like, oh man, okay.
Well, it's one of those.
I'm not running for reelection. I'm kidding.
There's too many variables in it, like you said.
Yeah.
Depends on how you want to look at it, how you want to walk through it.
I like it when Jeff is considered to be scary and I'm not. We're
Right.
going in the
But
right
it's all
direction.
about messaging. It's how you messaged
right.
it. And Carl did a really good job messaging. Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
thank
Get
you,
it.
Jeff.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all, both. All right, how about 1.2.4 faculty union report? And Bob Marsink is gonna have is not here. So
He's here.
I'm Bill Hogan. I'm the treasurer of the union, the emergency pinch hitter. There's a lot of controversy going on at AFT Local 604, so Bob is there, where he is a vice president on their Senate. And so I was informed I was asked to do this afternoon. All right, a few things. One, Jeff, I've missed talking to you about PTEL. Right, we've had long conversations and negotiations about PTEL. Also, I'll say this as someone who pays taxes in the district, I'm getting my $9 worth, right? But also on the mental health issue, I'm glad to see, and Cynthia's been fighting this fight here so long with different people, right? And it goes back forever. No, right, I'm saying, I'm here today because, and I'm not going to go into details. My mom died suddenly when I was a college sophomore. I'm here today because of college mental health services, right? And it doesn't work perfectly, but I'll tell you, the problem you face. Prior to that crisis, I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't interested. And after that crisis, I had trouble getting help because I was overwhelmed. And there's a sweet spot of 1 second, right, as I went from not concerned to overwhelmed. All right, union news. We had our elections for the next terms. And so the college should know that, or the board, who we officially have our relationship with through the administration, Bob Marsink was elected as our president. He will be reseated in January for a 2-year term. Jeff Bradford was reelected as our vice president. Michelle Rubel was reelected as our secretary, and I was reelected as our treasurer, which isn't always the case, right? We've definitely had people lose reelection. Bob won beating someone running for reelection. I won beating someone for reelection. We will elect 3 at-large people come January, and that's right before the negotiation training. And that's our only news, and I think we're actually required to tell you when we have these changes in elections based on some contractual, we will inform you of our leadership. That's it.
thank you, Dr. Hogan. Any questions for Dr. Hogan? No, good. All right, thank you. How about 1.2.5 adjunct faculty union report?
Both.
You doing both jobs?
I bumped into Laura, physics, chemistry, I know her well. As I was going to grab my coat and put it in my office, she was leaving. She has a pet emergency.
Okay,
So she is not here to do
All right.
pet emergency.
I understand. All right,
I said I would tell you.
that was a good help. We'd all be sitting here waiting for our pets. 1.3 approval of the minutes of the regular monthly meeting, September 14th, 2022. Kelly, do we have a motion?
May I call the motion?
Call a motion to approve?
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I assume nobody's opposed, so the motion's carried. Thank you, Kelly. 1.4 approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Approval of the consent agenda. So. So moved.
Second.
Before we do this, is there any board member who wishes to remove any of the items for the consent agenda?
Don't you have the first one?
Any?
I do.
We have,
There's the first and a second.
There is a first and a.
Yep.
Okay, I do.
okay,
2.1.1.
What did you, what one did
Two
you?
point one.
2.1.1, the director of marketing.
all right. We have a motion then on that? On 2.1?
Need a roll call vote on that one, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Well, we have a motion
There's a motion and a second.
and a second. Go ahead, go.
I didn't get who made the first motion.
Alicia made the motion and Michelle Lee seconded.
Trustee Morales. Trustee Stemborski.
Yes.
Trustee Broderick.
Aye.
Trustee Budzinski.
Yes.
Trustee Garcia Guillen. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Mahalik. Trustee O'Connell.
Yes. All right. Then we go down. To reports,
2.1.1, Mr. Chair,
2.1.1, okay,
was the pulled item by trustee Broderick.
right, okay. 2.1.1,
Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Kelly, go ahead.
I think trustee Broderick wanted to discuss it.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Get to talk once. I do, and I've talked to Dr. Namua when he talked to me on Friday. I do have some concerns, because we were replacing, I think it's, Dr. Michael Hernandez on this position. My concern falls in that we had his position and his level of position in that position. And this one is coming in new or semi-new or kind of new. So I guess I'm making sure that we're not with the same level that Dr. Hernandez left with, are we, or?
If I can,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, if we're gonna have a discussion about an appointment, I'd like to do that under C1 in our closed session. So that we can have that open discussion, since it's an employment appointment.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind as long.
So just so that the board, it recalls, if we table this till the end of the meeting and we discuss it in closed session, if you decide to take action coming out, then we'll recall 2.1.1. So we'll table 2.1.1 for right now.
I'm good. I was just trying to make sure that I was concerned about the
Understood.
left and the person that's taking it in.
All right. Anybody else? So now we're down to reports then.
New business?
New business is not,
New, right, new business, that's.
Okay. I was gonna say
that
it's not-
includes
it's
the new
not-
business, yeah.
it's not in the,
Yeah.
Okay, so for the first reading of the board policies, administrators and staff teaching classes sets the standards for administrators and staff requirements to teach. The tax sheltered annuities expresses JJC's desire to assist applicable employees in supplementing pension benefits and sets the basic standards for this policy. Family bereavement leave is in alignment with the Family Bereavement Leave Act 820 ILCS 154/1 and expands on the eligibility. The background check expresses that we have a comprehensive background check and that is conducted to promote safe and efficient work environments and sets the standards to hire qualified individuals in respect to each position. The general petition purposes or process provides students with a one-time option to appeal for a late refund or late withdrawal due to medical or extreme circumstances. The firearms on campus was pulled. We are not going to do first read on that. We needed a little bit more work on the wording. And then animals on campus sets the standard for animals to be allowed on campus. And we were just talking about, you know, animals for mental health here. Might want to read that policy anyways.
In regards to that one,
Yeah,
are you gonna have it like they do for getting on airplanes and that?
there, it's in there. It's in
It's
there
all that
for,
same stuff?
it's all that same stuff. I mean, and if we were to actually have some sort of dog on campus for mental health, I'm sure it would be written right in there for a service dog. So we'll be fine.
They'll have to have the tags and everything that show as a service dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or possibly not. Do you want to answer more on that about the service dog?
Emotional support animals, that is not a part of our federal laws. We can only ask when people do bring animals on campus, are they here only to serve a disability? And then the second question, what service does that animal provide, or what support does that animal provide? And that's one of the questions that we can ask an individual that brings an animal on campus.
Really?
So is
Yes,
that
and
going
we
to be a
cannot have it
problem?
registered for disability services or anything like that. We cannot ask for a card to be given, like, you know, some people are like, well, it's a service dog. We cannot have any of those types of
But you
things.
can't do what the airlines do,
No,
not any of that? Why don't we fall under the same regulations then?
that's the ADA, federal ADA requirement.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That surprises me.
So emotional support animals are not permitted unless mandated by state or federal law. So that's not going to fall under with the tags.
They are allowed to bring emotional support animals, and it's covered in the act. But for an open campus that we don't have resident, we do not. So it's.
So the differentiation is because it's open campus and no dorms, right? Whereas theirs, in the foyer, they can keep the dog or the cat.
But they would have to keep that animal in the residence facility. They can't bring it out.
Can't bring it out. Gotcha.
So as far as having emotional support animals, even in our facility, we can't due to federal law.
That has to be changed then.
Well, yeah, but none of us are going to be able to change the federal law.
I'm just saying.
I don't know, anybody?
Just saying.
All right, we got to work on that one. We'll,
What a service animal is, and it can only be a dog and a small pony. And emotional support animals could be any variety of animals.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
it's.
Right.
something to look into there.
All right. So we have anything to do with 4.2 now? This is
No.
just the
No,
second
4.2.
reading, so we
Right.
don't have to engage with that.
Yep.
No.
Okay. So now we're number 5, reports.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pausing for a minute to get the presentation up there. Chairman O'Connell, trustees of the board and members of the JJC community, thanks so much. I want to take a moment to acknowledge October birthdays.
Oh, you wouldn't.
A couple of our trustees celebrated birthdays, Trustee Garcia and Trustee Broderick. So want to wish them a very happy birthday, along with others who have birthdays in October. I want, just kind of toss this out there. You'll notice Trustee Mahalik's not here today. I want everyone just to kind of keep him and his wife's family in their thoughts tonight. Additionally, I want to take a moment to acknowledge some of our critical new hires today. So let me first start with, I'll call them shiny and new. They're not just new, they're shiny and new. Our new shiny and new Vice President for Finance and Administrative Services, Karen Kissel. Karen comes to us via many different industries, nonprofit, for-profit, Governor State University, Elmhurst. So we're really thankful to have her here leading the Finance and Administrative Services team. So on behalf of a grateful president, welcome, Karen, welcome. Next person I'd like to acknowledge is our shiny and new Dean of Career Technical Education. He's in a dangerous role because the president did his job for a couple of years, but I'm sure he, has forgotten more than the president ever knew about CTE. Really impressed with Josh's history, his experience. Comes to us by way of Sauk Valley College, and really happy to have him leading our career technical education area. So Josh West, welcome to JJC. And lastly, I want to take a moment to acknowledge, a critical role for the board, critical role for the college and the administration, our new board assistant, who has quite a bit of experience supporting boards such as yourselves. So it's my pleasure to introduce to all of you, Karen Rexick. Please join me in welcoming Karen Rexick, who's starting on October 24th. It's just around the corner. So to all of our new hires, welcome. I want to acknowledge as well that, here we are midway through the fall semester and our headcount is finally up. So we're up in enrollment and just want to offer some congratulations. It's certainly something to be celebrated as we've brought more students back to campus. We've got more students on campus at all of our physical locations. So kudos to anyone involved in strategic enrollment management. We're serving more students this semester. So allow me to take a moment, right, to again acknowledge Trustee Stamborski's presentation, acknowledge the leadership in that area, and give me the opportunity to highlight specifically some of the things we're doing in support of student mental health. The images you see on screen here are quite recent. Our wellness day, one-on-one sessions, the relaxation and decompression room on the bridge, and I've tried that myself, and the meditation walk. We are doing so much to support student mental health, but I want to acknowledge that more can be done, and we'll provide some specific recommendations toward the end of my presentation here. I want to throw some numbers out at you and first, mention some of those specific things. Group counseling sessions, one-on-one counseling sessions, case management, as Mike mentioned, the monthly newsletter that Cindy puts out, mental health first aid classes, community partnerships with, as mentioned before, social services agencies and faith-based organizations. Now, while we take great pride in the services that we offer, as Trustee Stamborski highlighted, we need to inform our students about what we do. And I think it goes beyond encouraging them to check their emails, although Mike, I'm with you. I think that would go a long way. So we as a college administration are committed to getting the word out because we do a lot of things really well. I'm motivated, I'm inspired, I'm energized by what we do. And I've seen this service in action at my last two colleges. And to Trustee Lee's acknowledgement, that it's valuable. Students really love it when you check in. At my previous institution as really just not a mental health thing, but as we were bringing students back to campus, we would just call them and most of them were just glad to hear from a representative of that institution. So we will absolutely do more of that. I think One of the things I'd also like to acknowledge, and I see some nodding heads from the team over there, is the level of complexity that this team is facing has really gone up. And sure, we can blame the pandemic for that, but I don't think that's it, right? Just the needs of our students are now more complex than ever before. And what we know about student mental health, it has advanced. For many in the audience, our time as undergraduates, for example, advanced childhood experiences, right? ACEs, that's a thing now. We now know a lot more about ACEs than ever before and how to go about managing what is becoming, generational trauma for many. So again, I want to acknowledge the good work, and here are some statistics around the work that's going on here at JJC. Intakes for counseling are up 43%. Individual sessions up 5%. And I'm going to repeat this next one. Crisis and walk-in sessions are up over 245%. 245%. As Mike mentioned, the CARES reports and not being escalated to BIT. I think there are some opportunities for us. I want to acknowledge the good work that's being done, that's been done through the pandemic. But as we enter the budget development cycle, I would not be surprised if student mental health were represented in some of the administration's key initiatives. So as a heads up, I think the team in their approach and how they're approaching their work has really identified 3 areas. Space. A space. Call their own. At a previous institution, we constructed a wellness center. The technology that's available would blow you away to support student mental health, and I'm struggling to find the adjectives, but spaces, right? To heal, spaces to be well. And structure. We've got a space. We're going to explore the structure. The current staffing structure is 4.5 right now. And I'm looking for validation from the team over there, 4.5. And I think I'm getting validation from Dr. Farmer. But here's what I want to acknowledge in terms of the staff, kind of full time. You might be impressed by the acronyms behind their names, and you should be, right? I'll acknowledge one of them that I was impressed with when I got here. At a previous institution, we were really proud that most of our counselors and mental health specialists were licensed professional counselors. There's another level here. And the C after the L, LCPC, that clinical designation is a higher level. So I want to take a moment just to acknowledge as well this board. Because if you'll recall, and I wasn't here, but this was this board committed to supporting and approving additional mental health positions. And as we've seen from Trustee Stamborski's presentation and some of the statistics I've shared with you, it's a need here at JJC. So kudos to the team, kudos to the leadership. Just want to acknowledge everything they have done as we've emerged from the pandemic and everything they continue to do to support student mental health. All right, let me transition really quick. All right, I did earn this medallion. I want to let everyone know I earned this medallion here, Christy Mulvey, as the Namuo family participated in JJC's Foundation annual 5K run walk. We took advantage of both of those words, by the way, both the run and the walk, and we're joined by Trustee Broderick as well. Just want to acknowledge the good work of the institutional advancement team under Christy Mulvey's leadership. It was a great day. It was a really fun day. Dr. Farmer was there as well. So this past Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the performance, The Odd Couple, here at the JJC Theater. And let me just tell you, while that performance is over, there'll be other opportunities for you all to go to the theater. It was a blast. It was a real blast. And I sent a congratulatory email earlier today or yesterday, and just congratulating the faculty in that area because the student performances were great. So just want to acknowledge our fine arts department and specifically our theater department. I had an opportunity to take a tour of the JJC technical department. I think Bill mentioned Jeff Bradford's name, who was recently elected, I think is the vice president of the union. Congratulations to him on that. Really incredible set of programs that we have. And as I make my way across the 7 counties and meet with the Crane Composites of the world, the LyondellBasels of the world, the Exxon Mobils and the Citgos, they rave. Our partners rave about the programs in our technical department. So I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge them. And you're seeing 6 of them here. Many of our partners, the ones I mentioned, reference operations engineering technology specifically. But I've got a long list and I'm not going to read all of them. But the way we at JJC have aligned ourselves with the industry to ensure that our students have the skills that our industry partners need is truly astounding. So I want to acknowledge the technical department. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to highlight. And my last thought is really this, as someone gave me an ice scraper as a present. Not sure who's responsible, but could be Kelly Rogers, could not be. There are a lot of fingers being pointed around. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge when you all are thinking of me and my first winter, by the way, I'm thinking of our operations and our maintenance teams and our groundskeepers and all of our staff out there and in here who keep us looking good. And, you know, cutting the grass, and I hear there's this thing called snow that needs to be removed from time to time. It's those people that when you think of me, I would just encourage all of you to think of them as well. I was also told that my ice scraper is too small, that I'll need a bigger ice scraper.
But I heard you were going to move classes at a certain temperature to Hawaii.
Oh, boy.
Someone has mentioned.
I had threatened to close the college at 49 degrees. Dr. Farmer convinced me not to. I did it again at 39 degrees. She convinced me not to. So appreciate all the care and concern, but you know, think of our employees. Chairman O'Connell, I'll yield back. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for that. We have the representative from first we have the JJC Foundation.
Yep.
Christy Mulvey.
Good evening. Thank you. Again, I want to thank Trustee Broderick for attending the Foundation 5K on October 2nd. It was beautiful and a great turnout. Plans are underway for the investiture of Dr. Namuo, which will be held on November 15th at the Event Center at 5:30. Each of you have received formal invitations at your home. And there's another invitation in front of you tonight. The graduation office is going to order your caps and gowns for that evening. So please let me know if you are unable to attend, and there will be a reception after the ceremony. We have scholarship application flyers printed now in Spanish and English. I think you have those in your packet too. The spring scholarship application process will open October 15th and will remain open through November 30th. There is significant increase in funds available for spring semester and several additional scholarships for our students. The foundation, as you know, gave an extra $350,000 this year, this academic year through the Vera Smith Endowment. So we honestly think after spring, at the end of spring, we will be able to announce that we have given at least $1 million to the students through the scholarships program. The foundation audit run by Wormer Rogers, Maher and Duran is completed of the foundation. I'm pleased to announce a clean audit with no adjustments, notes, or findings. Dr. Namu and I continue to meet with valued donors and corporate partners. I want to thank him for his support of the work that the foundation does to support the college. We are planning a holiday luncheon for some of our longtime endowment donors at the end of November at Thrive. And the next foundation board meeting will be our executive committee meeting next Wednesday, the 19th at 7:30. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Christy, excellent. I got to say, all the stuff that you had for the runners that came after, I mean, that finished, they had bananas, they had apple cider, they had water, they had everything imaginable, even the best home cut donuts, which they looked really good. And I know that your son definitely enjoyed those, it looked like.
You were going to call me out.
No, I didn't say you, your son.
May or may not have had to.
No, but it was really enjoyable. You had what, 300 people that were involved? It was quite a population that came out. It was really nice, really well attended. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. 5.3, representative to the ICCTA.
Okay.
Broderick.
Don't forget that November, and I'm going to pull my calendar up for the ICCTA quarterly meeting is November 11th and 12th. 11th is the roundtable, and it's up in the Schaumburg location. If any of you are interested in coming, let Kelly know so she can get you the details. The roundtable is great. The ACCT convention is October 25th to October 29th. How many are attending? Alicia, Michelle, are you? No, Jim, no. Dan is? Okay, just remember, we have the pamphlet that should have come to your home that shows you what your classes are, so you can start looking to see what you want to go to.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
It just came this week. So start looking at it and picking out things that you want to go so that you're ahead of that, because we will be discussing at the next meeting. Any of us that attended have to give them a little bit of a report. And in your envelope, just so you know, I did have Kelly put in what is called the Code of Conduct for the school boards K through 12 from the Illinois Association of School Boards, which is K through 12. I wanted you to look at it just to see what it looks like compared to our model one that we had been reading. I think it gives you a lot more, and it may be something that we should be also looking at the model to see if there's some things that we can add or improve. I'll say that. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you. 5.4, student trustee report. Stamborski.
Yep, you got it. It's Polish. It's kind of tough. All right, so I'm going to admit I'm a little bit winded from the first presentation, so I'll try my best here. But so student trustee report, and it's Wednesday, October the 12th of 2022. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that there's going to be a short film called Facade. It's directed by Alejandro Botia Forero, and this film is going to be diving into the perspective of someone that's really involved in the JJC community and the effect of mental health, both on positive and negative effects on their life. It's a short film, so it's looking to be about 15 minutes with expectations of it running longer. And I wish I had more information for you guys, but it's in like pre-production, so no teasers or visuals until casting is done. And that's looking at, I think April was the time span for that. So CCC clubs chartering. So recently, what date was it? I think it was the 3rd, that CCC chartered 27 new clubs. With all the new students back on campus, you know, there's been a lot of movement in that area. So there's been, as you can see, look at the table. It's like you couldn't even see the other person at the other side of the table. So I was thrilled when I was there when I saw that. The Blazer had their latest edition and was published September the 22nd, and it featured articles ranging from mental health to Main Street to the police facility renovation. It was a very cool article. The Odd Couple. So congratulations to the cast of the successful showing of The Odd Couple. That was on, I believe that was on the Thursday, Dr. Nemo, if you remember, Thursday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's what it was, I think. Yeah. So that was awesome. So congratulations to the cast for a successful showing. And mental health first aid. So there were There were 10 individuals in attendance, including 8 students and 2 employees. And mental health first aid is kind of like a sort of like CPR, where you go and you take a class and they teach you how to deal with a crisis that a student's having, how to de-escalate from a crisis, and then, you know, resources to have help, where to go after that. So it's very important for like students that if we want a good peer-to-peer connection with students, this is a very important initiative. NSLS, the National Society of Leadership and Success, had met this fall, and there were 145 new members. That's a lot of members. That's a huge amount. And then kayaking in the Chicago River on October the 8th. Kayaking on the Chicago River, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's so cool. That's the coolest thing. But and then midterms. So I kind of brought that up a little bit earlier, that midterms is around. So there are a lot of students right now that are under a lot of pressure. And I just ask that you take that into consideration with your interactions with them, to make sure that they do well, not only on their schoolwork, but in their personal lives as well. And then the JJC 5K, I kind of had my thunder stolen a little bit by Dr. Namuo, but the JJC Foundation hosted an annual event to raise money for upcoming spring scholarships. And then the DEI Diversity Week was hosted by the DEI office, and it had lots of lectures and talks on DEI, informing both students and faculty alike. And it was Campus Sustainability Month, where the Sustainability Union put together 2 events, and they ran from, let's see here. Well, they have a bunch of events, really. They have one in week 2, they have one for week 3, and they have one for week 4. Future sustainability, climate and social justice, and reduce, reuse, refuse, and recycle. And that is it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh.
All right. Well, thanks again for that student report. 5.6 Board Policy Committee report.
I do not have anything. We're working on a lot of policies, so get ready.
All right. We're getting ready for it. 5.7 Finance Committee report. Jim and Jake. And
spend about 20 minutes talking about the tax levy, but I was told I
yeah,
can't.
I was just
So at this point, there will be no finance committee report.
I was going to say that's probably just as well.
We missed building and grounds.
No, we're not having buildings and grounds tonight.
Oh, okay.
It comes down to 5.8 trustee spotlight. Trustee Garcia. Okay, so
She's not here today.
So she's not here. So okay, so we're already down to the chairman's report, and all I want to say is I want to acknowledge and congratulate all our employees, all our and appreciate all of the on behalf of our trustees here. We want to appreciate all the employees and everybody who's working here and has worked here at JJC. There's been it's been a tough 2 years, and so we want to acknowledge that and let everybody know that it's going to get better, and we'll all pray for that and bank on it. So thanks everybody for being here. That's new. Including the president, who's new, and so that's it's important that you should all be acknowledged for this. And yes, that's right. And then we should Leslie thank everybody who attends these meetings. People come here and they want to know what's going on. That's why they're here. You know, it's good that, that all of this happens and you too. And that all of this happens and everybody acknowledges it and thanks us. We're going to have another report. I want to thank you all for being here. But we're not finished yet because we're going to have a closed session. And so like I've said before, you don't have to stay, you know, but you can't stay here because
We need a motion to.
May I call the motion?
yes, please.
May I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Under 2C1.
Yes, I was gonna say,
Under
what, for what
2C1.
purpose?
All those in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Closed session.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry.
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Trustee Morales,
Yes.
trustee Stemborski,
Yes.
trustee Broderick,
Aye.
trustee Budzinski,
Yes.
trustee Garcia Guillen, trustee Lee,
Yes.
trustee Mahalik, trustee O'Connell.
Yes. Thank you.